little bit of fun. This one's a fun one. And don't start laughing. Humble myself in the sight of the Lord, and He shall lift higher and higher, and He shall lift you up.
All right, this is Jackson Hole Tourist Guide. We are here live with Chuck Fidroeff of the Good Samaritan Mission. Chuck, would you start off by telling us what you know about the history of the mission?
Well, it started a little bit before 1970. A man, Orville Wright, he was the one that came in here and he saw a need. So he did everything out of his pocket. Really a good old boy, and everybody really liked him. He had a thrift store, and people would come in and they'd bring their goods in here. The thrift store was downstairs here at the time. And he would look at whatever you got, and he said, "Oh, I think that's worth a couple of bucks." And he'd give him some money, and then somebody would they'd come in and buy stuff from the thrift store, and then he would have that money in his pocket too. And then somebody would come in, and they needed maybe some dental work, or they needed some gas, and he'd take his pocket out. Here you go, you know. He did it all out of his pocket. Real benevolent man, and had beds for men, and they got to work in the thrift store, helped them get clean and sober, and those kind of things. But a really, really good thing. Started out of the Community Bible Church. A lot of the guys went there, and they had the first Community Bible Church was just downstairs here.
So will you tell us what the mission is about, what the mission does now?
And now we've kind of put a little bit more rules. And when you put rules, you take grace away, and it doesn't really affect as many people that way, but it makes it a little bit easier to operate. So the 3 programs that we have is you can stay here 2 nights. Anybody can stay here 2 nights as long as they're clean, sober, and not disruptive. And then the next program is after 2 nights you have to have work. And if you can obtain work or a good suspect of work coming in within the first couple of days, then we let you stay. And you start paying $12 a night to stay here. It's participatory. That means you're going to participate. It's just a fee. It's not like a lease agreement or anything like that. It's just you're being part of the mission. And then you can stay up to a year under that program. After 6 months, we're going to evaluate you, look at you, see how you're doing and what you're doing, and see how you're coming and trying to get housing. Well, we've got one guy that's been here up to 3 years already. So that we made the rule, but we have a little bit of grace too. He couldn't find housing yet. He still can't find housing. Every time he gets on a list at the place where he's working and he gets into housing, it seems like he gets bumped for somebody else. So we take care of him. Then the 3rd program is where my favorite is, and that's drugs or alcohol. Somebody comes out of court or they come out of the hospital and they got a drug or an alcohol problem, usually out of detox from the hospital. They're clean and sober a few days, but their heart says they want to do something different. They don't want to go back to the same addiction that they had. We've got lots of examples of guys that have got better, came in here, went through the program. The program consists of meeting with me at least once a week for the first month. Usually it's just about every day. I'm talking to them, seeing what's going on in their lives, and then trying to help them get better. And then we're going to give them a course. We're going to give them one of the computers here to go online, and there's a Setting Captives free course. And the most important thing, I think, when you're trying to overcome an addiction is you've got a depression. It's just almost impossible to shake. You just don't feel good about yourself. So we're going to put them in the depression course at Setting Captives free and help them to learn to give Jesus their problems and let Jesus have these problems in their life. And then hopefully they stay clean and sober for the time that they're here. And if they don't stay clean and sober, we ask them to leave. It's a clean and sober environment. So the one thing that they're having the hardest problem with, alcohol or drugs, if they do that while they're here, we can't allow grace, because then all the other people, it would be like a house of cards and they would all fall down. So we help them as best we can. The other stuff that we do here besides that, we have 30 beds for men and 5 for women. We do feeding programs for people. Last year we gave 16,000 meals out. And that we have a commercial kitchen here. The kitchen is certified through the health department to give, so we get good nutritious food to the people. We have lunch and dinner 365 days a year, and then lunch on weekends. Breakfast and dinner 365 days a year, and then lunch on weekends. Another program we have is our Totes of Hope program, where each week we have 40 bags of food. They're packed up on Wednesday. I deliver them on Thursday morning over to the Children's Learning Center. These families have been identified as being food deprived. Each week we give them a bag of food to help them make it through the week. In the summertime, they come over, those same families, we'll see them a lot coming in to get a food box, which is another program we have. We have a pantry in the back, and people can come here and get food, and the only requirement is that they be hungry. We operate at the times that the food cupboard is not open, then the mission's pantry is open.
Could you tell me, how did you end up here at the Good Samaritan Mission?
I ran a mission in Brookings, Oregon for 12 years, and I had a little bit of a disagreement with the board of directors there. They wanted to go one way, I wanted to go another way. So I handed them my resignation because I didn't think it was a godly way to go. And so I was unemployed for about a year, and in first part of December 2010, I started praying and fasting that I would get a job. It had been almost a year unemployed, and it was on the 24th, Christmas Eve, this mission called me up. The middle of that following week, they called me up and I did an interview on the phone right at that desk over there. They were all sitting around on speakerphone right before the end of December. And they all went around and they interviewed me and asked me all kinds of questions. Some of them there, how old are you? And that's not a good question to ask. That's a legal problem when they ask that kind of question. But it was okay. I answered all the questions that they had. And the last question I asked them, is it going to be about Jesus? And I want to hear a yes or a no from each one of them. And all of them said yes, but I think a few of them were kidding. But that board is, I think I've got one. Dwayne is the only board member that's still left from that original board. They were wonderful people. They served the mission well, and they did a good job. The new board that we have right now, highly influential people in the community. They're movers and shakers, and they really do a good job for the community, and they direct me. They're proactive. I'm not directing the board is directing me, and that's the way it should be. What brought me here from Brookings was that interview, and they said the right words. I got here in January 2011. I walked through the doors. Brad in Georgia, Brad's the men's program director, and Georgia's the administrative assistant, and they still are. They were doing everything. The job was done. I said, what am I supposed to be doing here? Why did they have me come? And then I went up and I looked at the donor list. The donor list had just a little over 200 people on it. And I realized that my job was to market the mission so we could stay open and be here for the hungry, hurting, homeless in our community. And now the list is almost 1,500. So little by little by little it grows each time. My goal is to get it to 3,000 the first 10 years that I'm here, and I've got 6 years done, and it'll multiply a little bit rather than just add, because that's what happens. People talk to people and we get a bit more people on the list.
What experiences in your life inspired you to get into mission work?
I was a drunk for 30 years, so being an alcoholic, I had a desire to help people get clean and sober myself. So I was in the military for 12 years, and it taught me really how to drink very, very well. In the military, when I was over in Vietnam, I went forward in an altar call and accepted Jesus into my heart. And it was an emotional experience. It was real. I wanted fire insurance. I didn't want to go to hell. I really felt the power of God in that event. But on the way out the door, I said, okay, we did that. Now let's go get drunk. So it didn't take. Another 20 years went by. My dad calls me up to the house and he says, you're a loser. This is after I'm out of the military, don't have a job, unemployed, living with my present day's wife, doing everything the wrong way. Absolutely no responsibility at all, and I wasn't responsible for anything, couldn't be that way. And so I had to agree with him, I was a loser. But I remembered what had happened before in Vietnam, that words I said, and now they went into my heart. I started going to church, I started going to Bible study, I started teaching Bible study, I started tithing my money, I started being not all about me. I did Fuller Brush Watkins, I was even an Avon lady, going door to door. I was willing to do anything to make sure that loser didn't stick on me. Yeah, I wanted to be somebody for my wife. And it was hard because at first I had no really experience except for the military. I was a spy in the military. They call me 00 Chuck. And that's not marketable. They don't need a Morse code operator in the world today, you know. So I couldn't get a job doing that, but I went back to school that fall. 4 years later, I had a degree in accounting. I used the GI Bill from the military, got a degree in accounting. I was an accountant for almost 10 years when I got the call that I was now going to church, I was going to Bible study, I was the treasurer at the mission, I was the thrift store manager at the mission, so I was involved in the mission already. And then the director there said, hey, I'm going to go be a prison chaplain down in Arizona. I can't live off the money that we're making here at the mission. Why don't you take it over? And I said, well, if you can't live on it, how am I going to live on it? But I took it over anyway, and I asked God, what should I do? And he says, well, serve me or serve man. So I took the mission over, and I was taken care of better than I was with the more money working at the credit union. I had less money at the mission, but I was taken care of better. And I've been doing that ever since. It's the most rewarding work when you give yourself to other people, try to help them become what God's intended them to be. There's nothing better you can do with their life.
So what's the most rewarding, inspirational story that you have from working here at the mission?
I would say the lives that are changed. Somebody like Joe Strine, who came here twice now. He come in, he spent the night before he got here, he spent it out at Cuddy's bar. He was drunk, he couldn't even get it. He came in here the next morning, he still had alcohol in his breath. Said, sorry, you can't come in sober. He came in later that day and you couldn't smell the alcohol, but we cleaned him up and everything, gave him a bed, got him into program. And then he spent 3-4 years clean and sober and everything, got his life back, working at Albertsons in the butcher's department, doing a really good job, got a place of his own, got a horse with property, doing everything that he should do. But guess what? Sometimes we relapse. And he relapsed, and he come back here again. Now he's out, he went down to help the Salvation Army down near Vegas and got some property in Arizona for them and helped them build a camp, get that all ready. And now he's working in Arizona trying to get his life back. We're trying to get him back here to be on staff again, but don't know if that'll happen. But I think stories like that, the relapse is a part of recovery, so we have to realize that it hurts my heart. One of my friends, when I was back in Brookings, I got him clean and sober, and now he's back drinking again. And he's got a wife and 3 kids, and it breaks my heart. But then there's also the manager of the Mazda dealership in Brookings, Oregon, and he's still clean and sober and doing good for his family. There's 3 ladies that were on methamphetamines when they came to the mission in Brookings, and all 3 of them got their children, and they're not doing drugs, and all 3 of them had their children taken away through Child Protective Services. Now they're families again. Those are the kind of things that you can't replace those. They're so rewarding. I can't fix anybody, but if they come to change, I can show them how to change because God changed me.
Have there been any things that have happened here that have made you say, why do I still do this?
Oh, guys throw a rock through the window. He's mad because we had to kick him out because he got drunk, so he throws a rock through the window, and then we don't catch him, and then he throws a rock through the back window, and we don't catch him, and third time he threw a rock through my window again after we got it all fixed. We saw him going around the corner. Somebody saw him, we called the police and arrested him. And we didn't try to do anything but help him while he was here. But because he couldn't stay clean and sober, it's our fault. And those things, I don't know if it causes me to check what I'm doing. I've got the best job in the world, and I know it. And if you can get paid for helping people, it seems like there's something wrong with that. But that's what happens with me, and I live in a dream world. I'm working the dream and doing what I love to do, and every day I got a chance to help somebody get their life back.
Other than growing the donor list, what are your future goals and vision for the mission?
Well, right now we got two things we're doing. We're going to remodel the dorm rooms for our cook. Our cook lives in a closet that basically is just a room that used to be for storage, and we put a bed in there. We call it a bedroom, but it's not really that. So we're going to remodel it and make it into a regular dorm room. And we're going to do the same for our next employee that we'll have. So they'll have nice plush rooms, place that you would want to go after a hard day's work. Right now, there's no insulation between his room and the kitchen, so he can't sleep at night. So remodel, make sure the place is going. The future goals would be to replace this whole building, maybe at a different location, have a 9,000 square foot thrift store or bigger. Those kind of things. What would that take? It would take a donated building. Somebody would have to come in and say, here. Why? Because if we paid rent on a building in this town, there's no way we could use that thrift store as a ministry. And if I have a thrift store, I want to be able to use it as a ministry. Freely you have been given, freely give. So if somebody needs a whole house full of furniture, and it's leather furniture, and it's worth $10,000, and she wants it for her house because her and her baby want it, then I can say, here, take it. You know, and I've done that before when I had a thrift store in Brookings. I've given away stuff that would have really helped the mission financially, but God gave it to us free. And sometimes it's good to give hungry, hurting, homeless people good stuff.
Other than financially, are there any needs that people in the community could help you meet if they wish to?
I think the volunteer coming in to cook a meal, that helps you become part of this place. You feel a blessing. You feel rewarded because you got to see hungry people eat, and you are a part of doing that. When you leave here, it's just like, wow, I did it. You know, I gave of myself to the community, and it just feels good. As far as needs go, besides finances, we always need coffee. You can always bring coffee in. We had like, I would say close to 30 cans that somebody brought us last summer, and they're gone now. But it was like, wow, we'll never run out of coffee. But we ran out of coffee almost every week now. So yeah, needs, come in, volunteer, become a part of it. Come down and have a dinner with us, or a lunch with us, or a breakfast with us, and just sit down and get to know some of the guys. You know, they need friends too, and a mentor is probably the best thing you can be for somebody that's lost. You know, they need a friend, so come down and make a friend.
All right, well, this has been Chuck Fidroeff at the Good Samaritan Mission, Jackson, Wyoming. Thank you for all the good work you do, and thanks for joining us today.
He wants you to have a heart for Christ. He wants you to live and love for Him and Him alone. To not look to the right or not to the left, but look to Him for guidance, direction, meaning, and purpose.